This is the FM Gold channel of All India Radio. In the program News Analysis, now we bring you a discussion on anti-profiteering clause in GST. The participants are Dr. S.P. Sharma, economist, and Chandrasekhar, journalist.
Dr. S.P. Sharma, what the GST Council is, GST Council, and what is its function and how it works?
GST Council is to decide each and everything about GST. Earlier, they had so many meetings regarding the rates of GST, rules and provisions of GST. They are meeting first time post the execution in the Central Hall on the midnight of 30th June and 1st July that the Council is meeting again today. The Council today finalized the entire mechanism as far as the anti-profiteering is concerned. The anti-profiteering provision is meant to ensure that the businesses pass on the benefit of lower tax incidence and availability of input tax credit to the consumers, because there are different rates for GST for the different products. So few products may fall in the profits because of the implementation of GST, and the manufacturing processes becomes easier and the tax rate is less as compared with the earlier taxation of the indirect taxes. So if the profits are there, then that should be passed to the consumers. That is the sole objective of the profiteering clause. The GST Council on 18 June 2017 had made the dreaded anti-profiteering clause more palatable, specifying a sunset clause of 2 years, even as it relaxed the deadline for filing returns under the goods and services tax till September. So that is major thing for the producers, that they have relaxed the filing of taxation till September. Actually, the anti-profiteering clause seeks to penalize businesses that do not pass on the benefit of a reduced incidence to consumers. Any firm found to be profiteering will pay a penalty equivalent to the amount of the benefits gained under GST, but not passed to the consumers. That is the main objective. There must be pass on of each and every gain to the consumers. That is the anti-profiteering law. They discussed in their 19th meeting.
Dr. Sharma, you told us a lot about this, what the anti-profiteering clause is all about. What is this GST Council is? Who are the members of the GST Council? Maybe our listeners want to understand how important this whole council is. And what is the statutory backing of this council?
GST Council is the group of all the finance ministers of the states. They assemble to discuss about the GST, developments in the GST and provisions of the GST. And Honorable Finance Minister is the chairman of all the body of the GST Council, and GST Council is very, very important to take any decision in the ambit of GST. That is the main objective and main structure of the GST Council.
GST Council is headed by Mr. Arun Jaitley.
And
its members include all the finance ministers of all the states and union territories, as we understand. And this is the most important body.
Most important body to take decisions on the developments in GST.
If I understand correctly, this body also decides the rate of GST?
The rate of GST and developments in GST, like if there is any anomaly in some rate or in some structure, then they decide, they can take decision that how to remove this ambiguity from the system.
And the decision taken by the GST Council is final, and all the states are expected to
implement the decisions of the GST Council.
The first time that the GST Council is meeting after rollout of the GST?
Yes, after the rollout of GST on the midnight of 30th June and 1st July, they are meeting first time. They've discussed a lot of things, because now GST is implemented and 1 month is already passed. So there are a lot of developments in the system that how to remove or tackle those issues in the coming times.
The GST Council meeting takes stock of the implementation of the GST.
Yes, implementation of GST and the outcomes of GST, how the GST is implemented and what is the status of GST right now.
What has been the experience of the GST implementation in the last 1 month or so?
GST implementation is smooth and so far so good. So trend both in terms of adaptability and execution is found fruitful. And recently our Honorable Finance Minister Shri Arun Jaitley ji said that 7.2 million of the 8 million indirect tax assesses under the earlier tax system have migrated to GST. That is a major development, that lot of traders, businesses are registering themselves in the GST ambit. Out of the 8 million indirect taxes assesses, 7.2 have already registered. And 1.3 million new taxpayers have also signed up under the new indirect tax system. 1.3 million new taxpayers have also been added. So that is a good development. That will increase the base of our taxation system because our tax base is very low as compared with many advanced emerging and developing economies. We are only somewhere between 16 to 17% of our GDP in the tax base. So other economies, like other comparable economies in the East Asian economies, they are more than 20%. Like China is somewhere between 21 to 22%. So we are 5-6 percentage point behind our competitors. That becomes a big thing because the size of GDP is 140 lakh crores, for example. Then 5-6% becomes at around 7-8 lakh crore, which is a significant amount to fund anything in the economy like infrastructure, rail, road, port, and the facilitation of businesses and the work for the social cause like removing poverty, providing education to the masses and providing better health facilities to the masses. 7-8 lakh crore is a significant amount. So we have to increase our tax base firstly. That is main objective of GST, to provide ease of doing business to the businesses and to enhance our tax-based trajectory. So if the 1.3 million people are adding in the total taxpayers in the indirect taxation system, then that is a significant thing. I believe that number will increase in the coming times and we can boost a good amount of collections under the indirect taxation this year also. So I believe the move is good and as aimed, it will provide the fruitful results also in the coming times.
Dr. Sharma, you in the PhD CCI, you worked with a lot of industrialists, especially in the northern region and maybe from other parts of the country also. So what is your feedback about the GST as far as the industry is concerned?
Recently, we conducted a quick survey that how the GST is impacting the businesses and how the GST implementation is taking place. The implementation is very successful. And lot of people have provided their inputs. They are aware about the GST and they have implemented the GST. But at the ground level, at the grassroots level, like in the small cities, there must be awareness programs. Some segments are still not that much aware about the GST at the lower rungs, at the small cities or villages. Continuous awareness programs at the block level, tehsil level, mandi level. So these programs that how GST is working and what will be the benefits of GST will be very fruitful for those people, those who are somewhere lacking some knowledge about the GST.
Dr. Sharma, what has been the industry's feedback about the anti-profiteering clause which has been discussed in the GST Council meeting?
Anti-profiteering clause is good for the economy. Industry is not negative about the anti-profiteering clause, but the sunset clause that is set up by 2 years, that is also compatible with the industry expectations. And I think now the system is in process. There is no negative or discussion about the same thing. Now industry is looking forward for the fruitful outcomes. And there must be fruitful outcomes in the system in the coming times.
Dr. Sharma, what does the sunset clause means for a common layman or for the industry or for the trader?
Sunset clause is that in the next 2 years after the implementation of GST, the anti-profiteering, that they cannot take profits from the implementation of GST. They should pass all the profits to the consumers. Going forward, there can be some gain from the GST with the improved ease of doing business, with the improved structure of GST, reduced rates. That is there after the 2 years. But in the first 2 years, they have to pass all the gains to the consumers. That is the anti-profiteering clause.
Gains means if the GST rate has come down on a particular product, so the reduced cost must be passed on to the consumers.
And also they cannot raise the rates of a particular product. If some particular product is sold at the rate of 100 rupees and after the implementation of GST the product price is more than 100 rupees, then they have to advertise this price in national dailies. That is the clause, circulation, notification by the Government of India that there should not be any increase in the prices after the implementation of GST. If there is any increase, then they have to report to the authorities and to advertise in the 2 national dailies. That is the provision. There should not be any burden on the consumers because of the implementation of GST.
If the vice versa, if the prices after the GST, incidence of tax after implementation of the GST has come down, for a good which is priced at 100 rupees, if the price comes down to say 95, So the traders or the industry is required to pass that benefit to the
consumers. That is happening. Some luxury cars or SUVs, that thing is happening, that the prices of a few cars have been reduced significantly and the burden is beared by the manufacturers. So that has to be discussed. But they have to pass all the gains to the consumers ultimately.
Are there any penal clauses supposing if industry or a trader fails to pass on these benefits to the consumer?
Yes, there is penalty. They will be penalized. If any found to be profiteering, will pay penalty equivalent to the amount of benefits gained under the GST, but not passed to the consumers. They have to pay that penalty. So that is the provision. Because the main sole objective of GST is to create a common market in India, number one. And number two, facilitate the ease of doing business. And number three, to benefit the consumers by removing the cascading impact of the indirect taxes. So first, how these benefits are going to benefit the economy or businesses or the people. First, with the ease of doing business, we will be able to attract more and more investments from the foreign market. Because every investor looks at the taxation system of a country, of the destination country. Our earlier taxation system was not simple. That was very complex. That's why we are calling GST as the good and simple tax. So earlier taxation system was the complex system. So that has been removed. Now we are in a good and simple taxation system that will provide ease of doing business to the manufacturers, producers, traders. Number two, for the consumers. Earlier, the cascading impact of the taxation system, which is tax on tax. If somebody has paid tax on 100 rupees and total incidence of indirect taxes was 30%, then the price was 130. And the next producer, if adds 20 rupees, then again 30% on the 150 rupees. So that cascading impact was escalating the prices in the market. And the final burden was on the consumers. So now, under this system, there is no cascading impact. The tax is only on the value-added service or value-added production. That too at uniform rate. Nobody can change the rate. If GST rate on some product, ABC product, in some state is 12%, then across the states will implement the 12%. No state can implement 11% or 14% or 15%. That's why we call it a common market, that the rates are uniform across the products. Means if a product A is rated at some rate in somewhere, then the rate remains same across the states. Though the slabs are there, starting from 0% to 5% and then 12%, 18% and 28%, these slabs are there. But slowly, if the tax base increases, then I believe and I have heard that our government is going to rationalize the tax rates once again. Recently, I heard that Honorable Finance Minister has announced if tax base is increased, then there is scope to merge the 12% and 18% tax in a single tax. So, lot of scope is there to again simplify the things, and I believe this will be a very successful implementation, and GST is going to provide a major breakthrough to the economy. In the coming times, we will see our tax base increase to the level of 18-90% and even 20% in the next few years. That will be a major breakthrough for the economy. That will enhance our growth trajectory by at least 2-3 percentage point and provide an adequate room for spending in infrastructure, in social sector. I think the thought process behind GST is for the welfare activities in the economy.
Thank you, Dr. Sharma. Hopefully, it will result in the prices coming down further and it will benefit the consumers. We'll surely have a good and simple tax, as has been said by the Prime Minister. Thank you.
You were listening to a discussion on anti-profiteering clause in GST. The participants were Dr. S.P. Sharma, economist, and Chandrasekhar, journalist. This program was produced and presented by the News Services Division of All India Radio. This program is also available on our website newsonair.nic.in. You may email your opinion about this program at airnsttalks@gmail.com.